Notes numbers 1-14 slope. This evening we're going to be finding the slope given graphs, 2 points, or a table. But before we do that, we got to take a look back at some of the different things that we've used for slope. If we remember from Algebra 1, we said that slope is m. We also said that slope is my rise over my run. It's also the change in my y values over the change in my x values. And it's also m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then right over here we also see what we call delta y over delta x, which is the same as change in y over the change in x. One thing you will notice is that everything that's on the top of each of these equations or formulas is the y value. We always do the y first, then the x. Y is always on top. Example number 1. We have a linear graph that starts in the top left and goes down to the bottom right. Since it is sloping downwards, it is going to have a negative slope. And we're going to use rise over run to try to find this. Normally we would have points on some of these graphs, but this one does not, and that's okay. We can make those. If we look at the y-axis, you'll see that there's a point right here where it's going to cross, so we can draw that in. And then we can go down our graph and see that right here it's going to have another point that we can fill in. And we're going to go from this point to this point by using rise over run. And in this case, we actually are going to have to go down and then to the right. So we are going to go down 2, so that's represented by -2, and to the right 1, 2, 3, which is represented by the 3. So if our rise was -2 and our run was 3, then we're going to write that as m equals a -2 thirds, because we went down 2 and right 3. Example number 2. You see here on example 2 that it is a horizontal line. This line does not go up or down. So if we use rise over run, okay, if this graph does not go up or down, it has 0 rise. And then the run of this graph, we could just place a point here and a point here, so it goes over 2. So you could say 0 over 2, but 0 divided by any number in the world is still going to give you 0. So any horizontal line is going to have m equals 0 or no slope. Then if you look over here at example number 3, we have a vertical line. The vertical line is kind of different. Instead of the 0 being on the top, it's going to be on the bottom. Because if we say rise over run again, okay, we can put a dot here, and we could put a dot up here. So it's going to go up 1, 2, 3. So we could say the rise is 3, but since it didn't go left or right, we have a 0. Well, if you try to take any number, in this case 3, over 0, but any number over 0, you're going to get an error. And we call this vertical line, we call these having an undefined slope. It is undefined. Okay, example 4, we're going to find the slope given 2 points. We have the point 4, 7 and the point 3, 2. These are ordered pairs that make a point on a graph. Always remember that the first number is my x values and the second number is my y values. Okay, and we are going to use the formula m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The 4, 7 is my first set, and the 3, 2 is my second set. I'm going to go ahead and color code these. This is my x1 because it's part of my first set of numbers and it's my x value, and this is my y1 because it's part of my first set and it's my y value. Then this is my x2 because it's part of my second set, and this is my y2 because it's part of my second set. So we can go ahead and fill those in to our equation. Now, one thing you want to make sure you do is you keep this subtraction or negative sign in the problem. So I always just put that in there first, because now all we're going to do is we're going to take this y2 value and this y1 value and just put them in to our equation. So my y2 right here is a 2, and my y1 is a 7, and then I'm going to take my x value, which is x2, which is a 3, and my x1 is a 4. And now we can go ahead and solve that or simplify it. We can say that 2 minus 7 is a negative 5, and we can say that a 3 minus 4 is a negative 1. Now, anytime that you have a negative divided by a negative, that changes to a positive. So this is actually going to become a positive 5. So we say that our slope is m equals 5. Example number 5. You'll see right down here I have the slope formula already written because we have 2 points. Our first point is negative 3, negative 5. Our second point is 3, 4. So this is the first ordered pair. This is our second ordered pair. We said earlier that this is our x value, so that would be x1 because it's the first ordered pair. And this would be our y value, so that's y1. And then this would be our x2, and this one is our y2. Now here's where it's important for us to make sure that as we do this problem, we put these subtraction signs. The subtraction sign that's already in the problem, we go ahead and write down, because we have negative 3 and negative 5, so it's going to be important that we have those in there. We're going to put our y values on top because our y's are always on top, so that would be a 4 and a negative 5. We're going to put that inside parentheses, just like that. And then we have our x values. We're going to take our x2, which is a 3, and our x1, which is a negative 3. Again, put that in parentheses. Now, we can go ahead and simplify it a little bit more. You see here that you have the 4. We keep that 4, but we have a negative in front of parentheses, which is just like saying a negative 1. So that's negative 1 times negative 5, and a negative times a negative changes to a positive. And so negative 1 times 5, it becomes a positive 5. And we have the same thing here with the bottom with our x values. We have a negative 1 times a negative 3, so therefore that's going to make this a positive 3. Okay, 4 plus 5 is 9, and 3 plus 3 is 6. Now we need to simplify this, and so we have the number 3 goes into both of these. You've got 3 goes into 9 3 times, and 3 goes into 6 twice. So our slope is 3 over 2, or 3 halves. So it's going to rise 3 and go to the right 2. Alright, example number 6. I'm going to give you guys just a minute to try this one on your own. You'll see that it has the negatives inside of it, so make sure that you pay attention to that and check your answer here in just a second. Alright, so you can see that I've done the work here and I got a negative 2 after I reduced it. If you did not get negative 2, make sure you go ahead and look through those steps and try to see where you might have made your mistake. And if you have any questions about it, ask your teacher tomorrow. Alright, example number 7. We're going to find the slope from the table. You can see up here on the top you have your x values, and then on the bottom you have your y values. Now we could do this problem the same way that we've done the last 3, where we could take an ordered pair, which in this case would be my x first, which is negative 1, 2, And we could take this ordered pair right here, which would be 2, 1, and we could put that into our slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we could do it that way. But let me show you a different way that we can also do this. In the beginning of this lesson, I told you about something called delta y over delta x. Okay? That means the change in y over the change in x. Well, we can look at this table and we can see how are our y values changing. When I go from the number 2 to the number 1, what did I do? I went down 1, which is a negative 1. And then if I go from 1 to 0, I'm just going down 1. And from 0 to negative 1, down 1 again. So therefore, the delta y, or the change in my y values, is a negative 1. Then I can look at my delta x. How did the x's change? I went from negative 1 to 2, which means I'm going to go up 3. And if I go from 2 to 5, I'm going up 3, which is positive 3, and 5 to 8 is plus 3. So therefore, since these are all a constant rate of change, and I can put this on the bottom as 3, my change in my x's was 3, so the change in y's was negative 1, I put that on top, change in x's was plus 3, I put that on the bottom, so then we would have our slope is a negative 1 over 3. Alright guys, hope that this lesson helped you out. If you have any questions, make sure that you ask your teacher or come in for tutorials, and make sure that you fill in that WISC and hit submit. See you tomorrow.